One. And wait, why isn't it? Wait, what? It's recording. I've never had. That's weird. My QuickTime play. I've never once had it tell me before I can't screen record. Now I'm screen recording. That was the weirdest thing ever. It's never happened in 940 episodes. So that
Must
was
be our energy.
it. It must be our energy. And with that segue, Dr. Rodgers, please introduce yourself to everybody.
I am so happy to be here. I've
Thank
been
you.
here before and it's been a while. So, I am Dr. Elizabeth Rodgers. I am a Harvard trained epidemiologist. And as a researcher, I studied the root causes of health issues. But then, through the time as my career went on, I became disappointed in our Western healthcare system and how often it fails patients. So now I help women identify the root causes of their health issues and create roadmaps to heal so they can finally look and feel their best at any age. And it's my passion.
Beautiful. And so you have explained to me on and off the podcast about Reiki healing and
Mm-hmm.
energy healing and why it's important. Could you go into that? I mean, really for me, I don't really care if the listeners want to hear it. I'm interested. So
Yeah.
could you
I have
explain that?
I would love to explain it. It would be my honor. And I think it'll really help our listeners and all of us just to connect the dots so that we understand like what Reiki even is and why it matters and how it can help you. Because I feel like it's something everyone's heard of. But if
Hmm.
I feel like if you and I just dive right into it and not talk about what we're going to talk about now, it won't be as meaningful to people because I think that's Reiki is one of those things that can sound like a little woo and out there to people. And I really want people to understand it's not at all.
Hmm.
And it's actually grounded in science, not in, you know, channeling guides or something,
Well,
whatever people think it might be. So,
never forget. People
yeah,
thought Joseph Lister was crazy because he was talking about invisible things called germs spreading disease.
exactly.
So at the
And then
time, that was woo.
we got germ theory that eventually became one of what is still the
The
biggest
foundation
innovations to ever happen
of
in
medical
modern
science. It is,
medicine.
yeah, yeah. Atoms were a theory once, not
Yeah,
anymore. Atoms were woo
exactly.
2,000 years ago. Like you're trying to tell me
Exactly.
little balls make up everything? Yeah, everything.
Yeah, and that's actually exactly a little about exactly what I'm gonna start to
All
talk about
right,
at the
good,
beginning, which
beautiful.
I love. So then, you guys all understand, right, that you are made of energy. And so I'm a chronic health expert, so understand that's my background and where I'm coming from here. And because I'm an expert at root causes, what I do want you all to understand is that there aren't just physical root causes of our health issues. So let's just like think about a little bit of background and history because I know you'll all appreciate it. And I think that everyone here listening will just not be surprised by any of this if it's something you haven't already heard or realized yet. But, despite having the world's richest healthcare system, America is one of the unhealthiest populations. In 2021, the Commonwealth Fund published the results of a study which found that despite spending far more of our GDP on healthcare, our country, the United States, ranked worst of all the countries on healthcare problems and outcomes. So, what's the problem? The real problem is that our doctors aren't actually trained to heal. They're trained to manage symptoms. And I know because when I was a researcher at the University of Pittsburgh Medical School, I interviewed people for hours, for years, evaluating all aspects of their health and well being. And I listened to countless stories told through tears about the disappointing experiences people were having at doctors' offices. And they weren't getting the answers they needed, quite frankly. So I think it's important just to say that getting diagnosed and being healed are two very different things. So, to be clear, of course, I always want to say that there are a time and place for those kinds of doctors and prescriptions. Some of them saved my life. I had a near death experience 16 years ago. And so doctors and prescriptions can and should be utilized. However, it should be happening if and when it is appropriate.
Hmm.
And not everyone wants to merely manage themselves in the place that they're in. Some people want to take personal responsibility for their health and well being so they can create and learn how to create whatever optimal health is to them. And that's really what brings us to where energy comes in and how. Because right now we're in a time and place where there's honestly, in my opinion, no excuse for a healthcare system that only manages pain and doesn't help people heal. It's quite unacceptable. And that's actually why I left the system to do something different, to pioneer a new approach to the way we heal. And that really brings us to root cause healing. So what exactly really even is that? And what it means is that root cause healing is really identifying what's truly creating and contributing to the symptoms, health issues, or just state of feeling unwell that people are experiencing so that we can create a plan to minimize or eliminate whatever that is. So, for example, inflammation isn't a cause, it's an effect. But
Okay.
I bet a lot of people listening have been told that inflammation is the problem or why they're having some sort of specific symptom or problem. But it's a cause, it's an effect, not a cause. Right, but there are several different factors that are creating that inflammation. So it's my job specifically to figure that out. And so, spoiler alert, it's never just physical root causes like toxins and pathogens that are standing in your way. That's one side of the healing equation. So this is where energy and how I can explain it best really comes in. So Einstein, someone else that once upon a time people thought was crazy and had a learning disability, except that he was just a brilliant genius, taught us the equation E equals mc squared. So I want you to just think about that as a reference point. So understand that healing is an equation. There's an energetic, or we could call it non physical side to the equation, and there's that M, material or physical side to the equation. So, root cause healing that actually leads to optimal health and well being that lasts means looking at both sides of that equation, the physical and the non-physical or energetic. And I'm going to use those two words interchangeably, energetic and non-physical. So just understand that you can pick whichever word you like best, but they mean the same thing in this conversation. So when you look at any problem or state of being out of balance, unwell, feeling low energy, whatever it is you deal with, because let's face it, most people, or it seems like everyone these days, is living with at least one chronic symptom or health issue, whether that's physical, mental, or emotional, or just that you can identify that on any given day you just really don't feel your best. And that's not the way that it should be. So when you do look at a problem that you're feeling that keeps you in a state of feeling unwell, by addressing both sides, the physical and the non physical, then you actually can create anything that you want. You actually can heal in any capacity that you desire to. So, whenever I talk about root causes, it's always good for you to understand as a listener that if you're dealing with anything that's less than optimal health wise to you, there's always more than one root cause. And often the biggest barrier is your blind spot. The things that are standing in your way that have to do with what's inside of you, because everything starts as energy. So nothing that you're experiencing on a physical, mental, or emotional level started that way. It all started from energy. And the reason that we know that, and this isn't just theory, it's science, is because, like our wonderful host said, it's you that are made of energy. You are not just a physical being, you are a bioelectromechanical energetic being. Your cells, your organs, everything that makes you the thing you see in the mirror every day, inside and out, is made up of molecules, which are protons, electrons, and neutrons. And those protons, electrons, and neutrons are also held together by energy. So you, down to your core, down to every single molecule and cell in your body, are made of energy. But for the most part, traditional doctors aren't going to talk to us about that kind of stuff, right? You're going to go talk about a symptom and you're going to get that symptom merely managed in some capacity, but that's not necessarily healing that symptom. And then on the other side of that, we do have a big range of holistic practitioners, you could call them, or just alternative practitioners, anywhere from a naturopath to a holistic practitioner to a nutritionist, a dietitian, a health coach. And a lot of these practitioners, I would put Chinese medicine doctors into that category as well. A lot of them are able to identify some root causes, but among those that are, they're really only identifying the physical root causes. So things like toxins or pathogens or environmental triggers like mold, but they're not trained to look at that other side of the healing equation. And, it's super important to eat healing foods, use herbs and supplements that are unique for your situation that will help you create optimal health. But you could drink all the green juice in the world and it isn't going to change what's going on inside of you. So many people try to change, a perfect way to describe it is like how many of you listening, or how many of us, and I can include myself in this category, how many of us have tried to change our habits in some way, shape, or form? But, eventually, whether you sustain a new healthy habit for 6 months or even 6 years, eventually, in some way, you fall back into your old patterns. And why is that? It's actually because of your identity, who you are at a core level. And psychology teaches us that identity is what drives our behaviors and actions. So, again, this all comes back to energy, and I'll get there and I'll connect that dot for you in a second. So, if you're staying aligned with the same identity that got you into the place you're currently in, where you maybe don't feel your best, or maybe you feel pretty good, but you're in what you would consider like a plateau that you've been able to achieve a certain level of health, but you'd like to get somewhere beyond that, but you don't seem to be able to do that despite what you perceive to be doing all the right things. And that's because, another one of my favorite quotes, and I do think it's Einstein that said, you can't solve a problem at the same level at which it was created. So it's not the person who you've been being up to this moment when you're listening to this podcast that's going to get you where you want to go.
Uh,
Right? So think
okay.
about it from an energetic, and when you think about energy, this is where it comes in. So there are different levels of energy, right? Physical energy is actually the slowest form of energy. So when you think about that from a health and well-being perspective, if all you're doing is eating the right foods, whatever right is to you, taking supplements and herbs, things like that, being exercising, having the healthy lifestyle, which is part of it. I'm not saying that's important, it absolutely is. And you should be doing that. But that's the slowest form of energy. Okay, then there's sound, then there's light. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the fastest form of energy is actually your thoughts. So think about who you are. Like, who do you think you are? How do you think every day? What are the stories that you tell yourself? Do you tell yourself you suck all the time? Or do you tell yourself you're amazing and you can achieve and heal anything that comes your way, any setback that you might run into or need to navigate? Because the truth is that that is the fastest form of energy, and energy follows thought. So it all has everything to do with your health and ability to make change that actually lasts. So does that make sense?
It's if you wanna, how do I word this? If you're like a music producer or something, if you're Post Malone and you're like making a music video,
Yeah.
if you want to be on that level, it's not even enough to have 4K. You got to have an 8K, $50,000 camera. You've got to have a $10,000 microphone. You got to have a sound studio. You have to be, that is the threshold of just of getting there.
Yeah.
That's the industry standard if you want to be a platinum artist. That being said, if I get all that stuff, That doesn't make me Post Malone. That I'm
Mm,
I can do a podcast. I'm not Post Malone. At the same time, you can, and that's how you kind of see these early, like an early Eminem or something. But they also,
yes.
that's not when they're succeeding. Sure, they're in, Detroit throwing down a freestyle, but they're also on a $30 microphone in the back of a warehouse. And it's like their skill is sick, right? Dr. Dre
Yeah.
hears them and he's like, get me that guy. But what does Dr. Dre then do? Take him. And the first thing Dr. Dre did was brought him to his house and into his studio and was
Yeah.
like, do you on like high fidelity audio. So you do have to do it. Tom Brady, you want to be Tom Brady, you do have to eat healthy and sleep and exercise, but that doesn't just make you Tom Brady. At the same
Right.
time, Tom Brady can't continue to be Tom Brady and also drink a six pack every night and eat McDonald's and do nothing all day. So
100%.
it's a prerequisite, but it doesn't guarantee anything.
Right. And like what you're getting at with these awesome examples is that it's about, think about that. Think about Tom Brady, right? Think about Eminem. Think about Dr. Dre. Think about these guys and women, of course.
Sure.
There are lots of great examples of so many people that you consider like the embodiment of success, right? And so, like, a great way to think about that is what are the characteristics that those people have? They're driven, they're motivated, they're committed, right? Commitment is what I often tell people that come to work with me, especially, but I tell people this in general all of the time. There's this bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And I don't care if your goal is health or if it's something else, if it's a business, if it's an achievement, like to have a top podcast or to be a top recording artist or to be an actor or actress, to be an author or a speaker or whatever it is you want to be. We all want to be something. And the reason that I'm so passionate about health is because it's what I was put on this planet to do. And because, to be honest, if you want to be any of those things that we're sharing as examples, your health is absolutely the foundation of all of those things. And why would you build something on a cracked and broken foundation? That's just my argument for making health a priority in your life. But what we're getting at is that there are certain characteristics that the people who have the outcomes you desire have. And the bridge between where you are and where you want to be, first and foremost, is commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could get up and say, and there's energy that goes along with that commitment, right? It's not just me saying, I'm going to get up and be committed today and make a little list and I'm going to check these things off and do it. It's a mindset. It's a literal way of being. So, and what goes along with that is being self-integral, right? Keeping our word to ourselves, something that a lot of people are not very good at. How many times do you tell yourself, today I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do this and I'm going to get these things done, and think about what we're saying here. These are all things that are doing. So again, physical energy, the slowest form of energy. And then you just decide like to quit. So
Sure. Yeah.
being a quitter is not going to be a characteristic that gets you the outcomes you desire. So I would argue, or not argue, but just say that anything you want to be, you can be anything. Okay, now like could I become like the next Barbara Streisand? I don't really have the gift of a singing voice. I'm sure if I trained and got committed, I could get better. I could get pretty good, but probably not at that level. So, there are some limitations within
Yeah.
like you can
I'm
be anything, but
I'm not playing in the NBA. I'm
yeah,
5'9".
like I'm not,
Like,
yeah, I'm not going to decide I'm going to try to break the mold in the
yeah.
pro sports world or anything like that. But, setting aside those unrealistic limitations like we're talking about, you really can be anything you want to be and have any outcomes you desire for your life. But you have to be the kind of person with the characteristics that of the identity that achieves those outcomes. So being a quitter or being out of self-integrity, not being able to keep your word to yourself, being, disorganized. There are a lot of like qualities that aren't going to serve you to achieve that. And honestly, all of that's connected to energy because our identity again is what drives everything else, and our identity is what creates the stories that we tell ourselves. And the stories that we tell ourselves quite literally create or don't create everything we have in our reality. And one of the most like mind blowing, I'd say, and awesome things I've learned over these past few years is just this statement. And if you remember this and just say it to yourself sometimes when you're getting stuck in your own crap and bullshit in your head, it's going to help you get unstuck. Is that think about this: everything, and I mean everything, whether you perceive it as positive or negative, everything you tell yourself is a made up story in your head. Everything. Everything you think. Because your thoughts aren't you, right? They're, like I just said earlier, thoughts are the fastest form of energy, but they're not you.
And yeah, they're not.
You
It's
know,
like
you're something different. You're the thinker of your thoughts. You're not,
uh, it's
you're
that
not, you know,
it,
you're not happy. You be
you
happy because you,
experience happy. Yeah,
exactly, you
it's
experience happiness, or you're not, you know, I'm sure you could, like, all of you have been angry, but you're not you're not an angry person. You have had angry thoughts. You're a
yeah,
being that's had angry thoughts or
yeah,
experiences.
like a frying pan doesn't necessarily have a flavor. But it's like
Exactly.
whatever, it's like what you cook in it, right? It can be
Exactly.
anything. It could be
Exactly.
bacon, or you could cook crack. You could literally cook crack. Like it doesn't even have to be food. Like you know, it's
I
whatever
love
you put in it.
this.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when you think about it that way, to be honest, it really does come down in the end to that energy because, you know, like I was saying, our identity is what creates the stories that we tell ourselves. And those stories create our beliefs about what is and isn't possible for us. And those beliefs, based on those stories, based on our identity, is what creates the way we feel. And our feelings, our that emotional state that we exist in, is what emits an energetic vibration and frequency out into the universe, whether you believe it or not. I can promise you it's true. And this is, again, just another principle of physics, is that what we attract is what we get back. So if you take a look at your life right now, and whether it's health or finances or money or your job or your relationships or whatever it is, if you don't like what you have, it's because you've attracted those things based on the energy you've been putting out.
Hmm.
So it all comes back to energy, you know? Like, does that make sense?
Could you explain that a little more? If you have all, it's your, explain that again.
So who you are, right? Your identity is what forms the beliefs that you have, right? And how and what you believe is what creates your feelings, right? If you believe that you can heal from anything, if you believe that you can be a millionaire, if you believe that you're enough, right? Inadequacy and fear of judgment, and fear of abandonment. So, inadequacy is in fear of not being good enough, and fear of abandonment are two of human beings' biggest fears. So if you live by the story or belief that you're not enough, let's use that as an example because it's such a big one. And whether you recognize that that's maybe something that's holding you back, there's a big likelihood it might be in some capacity. How many of us, myself included, that was one of my biggest limitations in the past is just, am I good enough?
Hmm.
Like, am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I is this good enough? Right? We're always questioning, like, is it enough? Am I enough? And if you're constantly living by that fear, letting that hold you back, think about what that's doing to you. It's creating a feeling state inside of you, right? And maybe even though you have the best of intentions and you want to achieve something, like, let's say, you want to publish a New York Times best-selling book, and you sit down and you're writing stuff all the time, and you have the best of intentions, and you have the most amazing story to tell, because everybody does, because the greatest story ever told is your story, actually. Um, but in the back of your mind, you have that story underlying your life that I'm not good enough, and maybe that is because when you were In elementary school, some teacher told you that lie, and then you believed it. And then you've just carried it the rest of your life. And now here you are, and you keep writing all these things. But how come I didn't publish a best-selling book yet? Like, why not? Well, maybe it's because I kept thinking I'm not good enough. And that feeling made me feel a little anxious. And again, just like our thoughts and feelings are also energy. So we're sending out an energetic signal. And just like, another way of saying this is that like attracts like,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what you put out is what you're going to get back. So if you continue to put out that energy of like, I'm not sure I'm enough, then you're likely to repeat the same circumstances you're currently living rather than
And if
breaking out of that mold and actually getting publishing that best-selling book.
and if you're not enough, you're likely to settle for something that is not enough because
Absolutely.
you're like, if I'm showing up with a C grade, how can I deep down you're like, how can I accept anything but a C grade from anybody else? So if I'm
Absolutely.
if I'm paying for a subpar hotel, like don't be surprised when it's like a shitty bed and there's like a cockroach on your pillow. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. So it's so like important when you start to even think about energy to just like take a look around you at your external life, because if you're not sure what your identity is and you're thinking and you're listening to this and you're like, and you've never thought about this stuff before and you're just like, how, I don't know what my identity is. Like, how did that create my life that I think kind of sucks right now? Well, actually take a look at your life around you. And that's how you can start to figure out what your identity is. If you're, in an unhappy relationship, you probably have some sort of worthiness story that you're not good enough. So you might as well settle for this loser instead of
mhm,
actually thinking that true love or your soulmate is really out there floating around in the universe. And I can use that and tell you it's a very personal. I used to be that girl.
uh-huh,
I bounced from unhealthy relationship to unhealthy relationship because I really believed, I truly did, that I was destined to be alone because I survived a near death experience, and I believe by divine intervention, I got to survive against a 1 in a million shot of survival because I'm here to serve and I'm here to fulfill a purpose. And so I thought, well, maybe the reason I'm, hanging out with all these losers is because I'm just meant to be alone and this is the way it's meant to be. And so that was a story I created, I
mhm,
made up in my head. And then I literally lived it because I thought,
yeah,
well, maybe I don't have a soulmate and I can be happy just helping people because that's what I love to do and that's what makes me feel good. And then I finally decided that I didn't want that to be my story anymore. And it was when I let it go
yeah,
that now I'm engaged to my soulmate.
yeah,
And there
yeah,
was a time in my life I never, ever, ever would have believed you. If you would have told me that, I would have been like, yeah, no,
yeah. Well,
you know,
that is one of there's a great quote. I don't remember where it's from. I think it's from a cartoon, but it was we accept the love we think we deserve. And
absolutely.
and I mean even I see that with like being pre-med and getting into medical school and then realizing like I didn't want to do it. There was part of me that's just was like,
I was the same way as you. I
yeah,
had the same exact thing happen because there was
yeah.
a different way. You had a different path you wanted to take.
But you kind of tell yourself you're like, I remember I had this like revelation on mushrooms, and part of me was like, hey, that's very nice. That was a nice experience. Like a photograph, like put it on the wall. It was nice, but it
Yeah.
was like, unfortunately, and I remember telling myself, I was like, maybe next lifetime. Like I said it to myself so certainly. Like if you and I don't cover something right now, right? There's no problem with saying like, well, the next podcast we'll do this. All right.
Yeah.
I remember saying to myself like, so certainly, I was like, maybe the next lifetime, and then I stopped and I was like, what the fuck did you just say to yourself? Like,
Yeah.
what what proof are you sitting on that maybe next time around? And I was like, well, this is one of the things where you realize this isn't what you really love, but you're grateful for getting into medical school. You're grateful for the girlfriend, and take what you have because it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And like,
Right? That's a story you
yeah.
created.
And I was like, okay. And then part of me started to look at it and I was like, why? Why do why does that have to be like a sad like, ah, I should have done that? Like,
Yeah.
why can't you go, no, fuck all this. Take out the flamethrower and be like, let's start over. I want to do something new.
I want
And
to create something different.
and I was 23 at that time and I was like accepting that I had, hit the end. Now I'm 32 and I'm like, I still don't know where this is going. And no part of me is like solidifying, is like, well, this is what I'm doing now. No, I every day I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing in 5 years. I have
And you know
no
what?
idea.
That's actually, I feel like you're hitting on something so important that so many that's going to resonate with so many people is like uncertainty, right? Like how many people out there listening have played it safe or stayed in their comfort zone, which, thinking about everything we're talking about related to energy, you're only going to grow outside of your comfort zone. But so many people stay safe, right? Because it's easier, it's predictable, right? And part of that actually has everything to do with what we're talking about with identity, right? Because a lot of people will stay like you could have at 23 chosen to stay totally married to that way of thinking. Like this is good, I'm it's good. And
Good
how many
enough.
people do that? It's good enough. Well, and we get into comparison. Well, things could always be
Be a
worse,
lot worse.
and
Yeah.
this is good. I have X, Y, and Z. I have this person in my life. I have a steady job. I have, benefits, and it's good enough. But maybe you don't want to work for someone else. Maybe
Yeah.
that wasn't what you wanted. But taking the leap and going out into the unknown where you don't have certainty all of a sudden feels like, well, I'm going to keep this job with my benefits, and it's going to take care of me and my family, and and even though my wife and I aren't in the best of places, we'll stay together for the kids, like we do all these things, we stay in our comfort zones, we jam ourselves and force ourselves into staying there because of certainty, because when you actually decide to change and shift and reinvent yourself, you don't get predictability, but that's always been an illusion for every single one of
It's
us. Like, I
yeah.
think it's a beautiful thing that you're 32 and you're allowing yourself to let go of the how, and you're just allowing yourself to be, because that is a huge level of growth that a lot of people will die before they ever achieve, because the thought of letting go of
Not knowing.
predictability and of unknowing of letting go of certainty is not something a lot of people are not willing to give that trade-off. But the truth is, even if you think you
You don't
have
have it
predictability,
anyway.
you don't have it anyway. Yeah, it's an
It's
illusion. It's just, again, another story
it's
that you tell yourself. And I think it's incredible that you are doing this, because the truth is, like, we all like I bet every single person listening has this like big dream in their head that, like, think about, what did you say you wanted to be when you were little, or like when you became a teenager, maybe you had this awesome idea, or like for you and I, we both got into medical school, we're going to follow that straight and narrow traditional path, but then we realized there was something, a different calling inside of us. But a lot of people in our shoes would have gone and gotten their MD and then probably been an unfulfilled doctor, but they would have had the money and the thing and then the label and all the, shit that comes along with it. But deep down inside, there's something for all of us that we all want. We all want something more, even if we're too afraid to admit it to ourselves. But I think that one of the biggest things stopping everybody is that you don't know how to get from where you are now to where you want to be. And the truth is that the how is actually really none of our business.
that's that is beautiful, right? It's when you go somewhere you've never been before. If you ever go to like a new city, you get to the
Yes,
airport, you grab your bag.
Portland, Maine was the first place I went. I was telling Tommy about this before we started recording. I got to go to Portland a couple of years ago for the first time, and going anywhere in Maine was never something on my list. I
Yeah.
never cared
Yeah.
to go there. I didn't know anything about it, but I just was like, well, I
Yeah.
have to go to Maine for, it was for work. I thought like, well, I have to go for work, so cool, I guess I'm gonna explore Portland. And I got off that plane and I felt this energy that I never felt before in my life that felt so healing and welcoming. And I fell in love. And now it's honestly a place that if I could live there part time, I would. And I maybe will do that someday, or at least have a property there. But I fell in love and I never thought I would. And I just let go of the how in that moment. And I just let myself be taken on a freaking journey that was incredible. And it was all unpredictable.
It's like when yeah, you go someplace you've never been before, and
Yeah,
then you like enter something in a GPS, like an address. You're going to stay at a friend's house.
so true. I
It's not
love
even like
this.
it's a city where you're from, and you're like, oh, we're taking a different way. You're like, I've never seen any of these buildings before. I don't know what these highways are. I don't even know what that fast food chain restaurant is. I don't know what the fuck Billy's is. And you're like, but but you get in the thing, and it's like turn right. And no party is ever like, okay, now we're turning right. Are you? And it's like, no, you don't even think twice about it. You go, yeah, it said turn right. You get on the highway, stay on this for 9.8 miles. You just stay on
Yeah,
it for 9 point, and then you pull right into the driveway. No party is ever like, oh, oh, we got here. Oh, you put in an address to a place you've never been before, in a state you've never been before. And what an odd thing that you trust that. Now, I know it's GPS and, global positioning satellites, sure.
yeah,
But
but still,
I think about that all the time
I
where
do too.
when I stop thinking about how am I going to do it? Instead, I was like, what do I want? I want the podcast to succeed. I want to do it full time. I want to be closer to family. And then I would just think about how great it's going to be when it happens and just work ferociously towards that feeling. I don't know what it's going to look like. If you had told me, if I had tried to like, if you went back to me 2 years ago and was like, where do you think this is going to be? And I said, well, I got kicked off Rumble, but then through that, this happened and I met this person and now I'm going to go live here. I would have been like, no, that's not how it happens. You go on YouTube and then you get monetized. And no,
Exactly. We all want that very like, just give me like
it,
the
it, this
strategy, the little
happens. And
predictable plan, and I just will do A, B, C, D, E, F, G in the straight order, and then I'll get there.
But
All you
what you
need.
said earlier about like we're all scared of uncertainty, so we stick with certainty. But the reality is, it's like no, you don't even have certainty, right? It's
Yeah.
like I think Joe Rogan said it like back in like 2013. I was listening to something. He was like, he's like, and myself included, are always like, I would never go into space. I would be so scared, and I would be.
I would
And,
be.
and he goes, where the fuck do you think you are right
I
now?
know.
That's like me going, oh,
I know it's true. We're
I'd
on a
not.
freaking planet
That's
that's
like me
floating
going,
around
I'd never
in
go to America. I only
space.
do Maryland. Huh? I couldn't do that. I'd never go near the Pacific Ocean, only the Atlantic. They're all touching. What the fuck are you
Yeah.
talking about? And like, so that's one thing I think about is like, I'd always take the certainty of okay, the certainty of medical school. Right after I graduated, I lost a
Yep.
brother to suicide. Where was that? Was that part of like the contract?
Yeah.
No. At any point in time, I also could have gone through med school and never lost a brother, finished residency, and then that day had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
So to me, I always like I always think of like potential outcomes or almost like a time lapse. Like right now, I could keep talking to you, and then there's like another, you can almost imagine there's like another me that like gets up and goes to the bathroom, and you kind of have that.
Absolutely.
And then there's another me that the microphone cuts out. You can just see all the what am I doing? Am I drinking? What am I doing this? Turn off a light, whatever. Does the internet cut out? There are all these options, right? I can go grocery shopping today or I can go tomorrow. And there are all these like but it's pretty contained,
Yeah.
right? But then if you go out to tomorrow, it's well, what would happen tomorrow? Well, now tomorrow is also dependent on all the little things I do today. So at the end of each of those branches, maybe I get up and use the restroom, and then I'm in the restroom and I roll my ankle. Now all of a sudden it's like I'm not doing a podcast tomorrow and I'm going to the hospital. Which hospital am I going? So it starts branching out.
I
And
love what you're getting to. I love this.
so what I start to think though is like I remember it was like when I was still living with my parents, like it was like fall 2020 when I was doing the podcast. And I remember thinking like, well, let's walk that out. And after just 3 or 4 days of those steps, all possible outcomes, there are so many exponentially increasing that it just turns
Yes,
into
there
this
are.
like this blending. Like if you combine 10 pictures of me, it'll probably look pretty much the same. If you combine every picture of me ever taken, it'll eventually just turn into like a blotch. And so in my mind, I was like, it just sort of turns into this like event horizon, almost like a coming like tidal wave of like
Yes.
potentiality. So like within the next 48 hours, there's like very limited things I could do. I could stop this podcast right now, go to Walmart and take my pants off and end up in jail. Sure, like, but in all reality, like what's gonna happen? We're gonna do this podcast. I'm probably gonna talk to my mom on the phone tonight. I'm probably gonna play some video games, and I'm probably gonna go to the gym and do the podcast tomorrow with some variations. Maybe there's a cancellation,
Yeah.
maybe there's a surprise email, whatever. But then, even if I just look back a month ago, I'm like, oh, what an absurd. I didn't think I would just stop drinking alcohol. What a weird new world I live in. And so, what I always try to imagine is like when I'm walking, like I see like kind of like shadows of myself going in different directions. Do I go to the kitchen? Do I, in what ways does the universe split off? But no matter which way I look, if I look more than like 20 feet, I just imagine it all kind of turning into like a blur and it's just pure potentiality. And I keep
Yes.
that thought in my head. And that allows me to truly believe, like, maybe you will get on Dr. Malone. And then one day you're walking to the gym and you get a phone call from a number. You're like, who is this? And you're like, this is Dr. Robert Malone. This is Tommy Carrigan. Did you send me an email last night? I'm like, yeah, I've been emailing you like every night for the last year. I'm that guy. Is this a cease and desist? No, no, I'd love to do your podcast. Oh, holy shit. When? Can you do it right now? Sure can. And like turn around from the gym and come right back here. But that happens where I go, because sometimes I'll settle in and I'll be like, no, you're not going to get that guest. Like, get
Yeah,
back
you
in your little
won't.
square. You're going to interview your friends and the same people. And then I'm like, why can't I? And I really start to believe it. And I just
Exactly.
really,
And
and then
you're creating it. You're creating it.
yeah. But then even with that confidence of when you start to believe it, you start to kind of walk with a swagger and like not in like a cocky way, but instead of sending
No.
like a timid email like, "Hey, I know you're like
Yes.
a doctor," instead you're like, "Hey, I'm Tommy Carrigan. I'm 31 years old, and you don't know anything about me, but I did get into medical school. I know you're a doctor, so I could maybe hold my own talking to biology about you. Here's some of my epi." And when you just kind of like act like
Just be
you've got it
confident.
all,
Yes.
what's the worst that can happen? They say no.
Exactly. God, you're getting at so many, so many, so many good points.
Sorry, I
Like,
know I've been
first,
ranting for like 10 minutes.
no, God, I love all of this. Like, I'm absorbing it like a sponge. And you just hit on so many things, too, for sure, that like I have to mention. One, you're getting at like what we truly are, which is pure potentiality. Like, what you said is actually true for each and every one of us, every single one of you listening. Like, we all timelines exist for us, and there are infinite time and there is an infinite number of timelines that exist for you right now,
And
and
infinite
any
infinities. Yeah.
single one of them is absolutely possible for you. You could potentially create any single one of those outcomes and timelines, but what it has to do with, again, like comes back to what you were just saying, is the energy. Just that's such a perfect example, your energy of who you were being, right? Being the timid person who's questioning yourself, like, oh, can I do that, can I get that outcome? That's going to be the person that's probably going to get you that more predictable timeline, right? Because if you think about it like you laid out a deck of cards in front of you, right? And the three, like the one right in front of you is your timeline now, and the one on either, the card you've got laid out on either side of that is like the likely timelines that could exist, right? And if you're playing that timid person, you're probably going to stick with that timeline and continue to get the results that you're like, well, I'm just going to interview this person, or I'm just, anybody thinking could use the example like, well, I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing. I'm just going to stay at this job. I'm not really happy here, but it's, who am I to think I can go out and start my own business even though I have this really great idea, you know? Or who am I to think I can, just leave this relationship and go find something
Mm-hmm.
better because, I've been doing this for so long and it's not that bad, it's
Yeah.
good some
Good
of the
enough.
time. It's good enough. But then there's that person who you are being instead, who's confident. And then the more you embody that, right? That's just all circles, like full circle back to everything we've been talking about. Like, you took on an identity trait of the kind of person that gets the outcomes you really want, which might sound like what an old version of Tommy would have been like, holy shit, can I really do that? But This Tommy today in this now moment who I'm talking to, because the truth is our past and present isn't real. The only thing that's real is now.
Hmm.
From that now moment, you decided, like, actually, who am I not to think I can't do
Why
this?
not
Like,
me?
I'm awesome. Exactly. Like, why not me? Why not you? And to every single person listening, like, why not you? Whatever it is you're wanting that you're questioning and thinking, like, well, I don't know. I mean, geez, you guys make it sound like it's just energy. It is just energy. And so why not you? Why not you? Why can't you be the one to publish that best-selling book? It doesn't matter if you don't have a famous mom and dad. Who cares?
Yeah.
We want to hear your story. It's the greatest story ever told it because it's yours and it's different and it's unique and you can have those outcomes. But you decided to take on that trait of confidence, which is a big one for, manifesting things and creating realities that are might seem in our human brains like challenging or hard. It's only a story if we think it's hard. And so you did, and that was because of your energy. And energy follows thought, which is the fastest form of energy. And you just decided to think, why not me? Why can't Dr. Malone come on my podcast? Why can't all these incredible experts and people come on my podcast? And then they started showing up. And it
Yeah.
wasn't just coincidence, it was because you created it. You created that reality. You got onto that timeline and made it happen. That was all you.
And then people are like, well, it's easy to get bigger guests now because you can show them your other guests. Where do you think
But you
that
didn't
started?
have them before.
Where do you think that
Exactly.
started? Like that's
Exactly.
why you do the first podcast so that the second person doesn't have to be the first pod. You go, oh, I've already done one before. You go, oh, okay. And then once you've done 20, you go, hey, you'll be 21. You'll get lost in the fray. People are like, oh, okay. You're not the first author. You're not the first doc. And then it just blurs and
So,
it turns into this
yes.
huge, but that's a huge thing is you have to start going, like, why not me? And again, that doesn't mean that you don't have to like work your ass off and show up, but like
Exactly.
you also have to have like and that doesn't mean like being timid is bad. It's also
No, it's
humility is
not.
great. You got to go,
Yes.
I don't call someone when they say no. I go, do you know who I am? Because I'm not Joe Rogan, right? But you also do need to put on that poker face and you're like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Let's just do it. And if most of the times when I get big people, I'll tell them, I'm like, yeah, just give me 5 minutes, like, and then we'll wrap it up. And they're like, oh, I'll do 5 minutes. More times than I can count. I've been like, well, we're coming up on 5 minutes. And they're like, no, let's keep going. And you talk to them for an hour and a half. And then like you end up you're like, all right, dude, I gotta cut this one off. And like you
Yeah.
have a blast. But and again, it doesn't mean that you don't have there's a lot in the background you don't see of constantly working, but that's the whole just do the work. That's the Post Malone having the camera and the microphone. But there is a huge part of just going like, why not? Why not me? Like when you look at, I remember seeing this video back in like 2017 or 2018. Some NBA player, he was some rookie. He just finished his first year, and he was at. They're just asking. He's like 23, and they're asking him. They're like, how is it? Whatever. I don't even remember his name. But he's sitting there. He's like, I think I want to be the MVP next year. And everyone's kind of chuckling. And he goes, Why not me? He goes, Why not? Like I got into the NBA.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm already part of like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. He goes, what? He goes, what would I have to do? He goes, it's not that hard. I have to score the most points, get the most rebounds, and like have the most assists. Why not? Someone's gonna do it. There's
Yeah.
a finite number of people in the NBA, and I'm one of them.
Such a good example. And Michael Jordan's another great example. When he was
Yeah.
in high school, he wasn't the greatest high school player. He was
Oh,
just
not at
an
all.
average player. In fact, his coach was just like, I see that this kid's got some potential,
Yeah.
but like how many kids have potential? Like, right, we all do. Like any
Yeah.
one of us could have played high school basketball and had some potential. But he said, what do I need to do to be the best?
Yeah.
And he started to practice and he practiced and he just embodied every single characteristic he knew he had to have to become the greatest there ever was. And to
Yeah.
this day, he
He's
still
still the GOAT.
is
He's
the
still the best.
greatest that there ever was and maybe ever will be. I mean, holy crap. I mean, just
He
wow.
he holds a record. He has the most game-winning shots in the NBA. He also holds the record for missing the most game-winning shot
Exactly.
opportunities. So I mean, truly, if you want to talk about like taking the
Exactly.
chance, he has the most game-winning shots, and he's also lost the most games by missing a shot.
And that is such a good example of energy following thought and how important that is and how powerful we are, because it didn't matter how many shots he missed. Not a single one of those did he let throw him off, because
Yeah,
he was continuing to be, in his mind, the most committed, the most dedicated, the best trained player. He was always trying to be better, be more, be faster, be
yeah,
stronger. And he never let that stuff set him back. You know,
yeah.
like so many of us do, right? How many of us get a failure and we're like, and we
Oh
decide we're going to
man.
make it mean something. We're like, see, I suck. Like, I can't do this. I
Well, at
can't
least
do
I
that.
tried. Like,
Exactly. And we make it mean something because we're meaning making machines, and that's what humans do. But the truth is, we could make it mean nothing. We could
yeah,
just choose to make it mean nothing. And again, go back to like, why not me? Like, so what if I screwed that up? That's like, we're going to all fail in life countless times. That's what
yeah.
we came here to
You
do.
take that and then you turn that into like fuel. You go, that didn't mean anything. Fuck, that feels really bad. I don't want that to happen again. And then you just dial it up more. I mean, truly just focus on like the only just focus on that. And you eventually, I mean, it's almost like you can become so focused on anything
Yeah.
that I do believe this. Like when you enter like a flow state. Like I swear, when I took the MCAT, I
Oh,
had never scored above the 60th percentile on a practice test. And I think
me
each
either.
section was you had 55 minutes to do each section. And after 9 months of practicing, I got those down to like 50 minutes, which was huge. It meant I had 5 minutes left over to go back and look at questions I wasn't sure about, which is
Yeah,
huge. You're
it
scared out of
is
your mind.
huge.
You're having a panic attack. It's the MCAT. The day I took the MCAT, I finished each section with no less than 20 minutes left, and I scored in the 95th percentile. I had just entered this state of zero doubt, zero hesitation. I'd come across a question and go, I don't know that one. Just next one. I know that. I know that. It was a flow state where it wasn't even like, oh my God, this is working. There was no other reality that existed in my mind. Like right now,
Yeah.
how certain are you that a dragon, a mythical dragon, isn't about to tear through my apartment ceiling and eat me alive in front of me? We are both very certain that the podcast is just going to continue. Maybe the power goes out. Maybe a fire alarm goes off. A dragon is not eating me. It's not
Yeah.
even registering. When you
Yeah.
enter that state of just hyper focus, it's not even that you're like, I'm going to win. There's just no other reality. You don't wake up and go, I'm sure
Exactly.
the sun's rising today. You just, yeah, you don't even, it's just there.
You created that
You
reality.
go into a place where there is simply, you're not winning because there is no failure. You are on one track. There is one reality. And then you're just there. And then you come out of it and you try to get back to that state. And, that doesn't really work. But like, if you just focus on one, like you do enter, like, there have been times where I swear I'll just have like emailed someone and my mind will just be like, I am interviewing that person. It
Yes.
won't even be like, okay, focus on, I'll just be like, no, they're getting back to me. And like delusional, like above my parents' garage, doing it on a laptop, emailing one of four men alive who've walked on the moon and having the balls to go, having the delusion to go, I am interviewing him. And then him emailing me back and going, I don't really do interviews, but sure, I'd love to.
Exactly.
What was that?
Exactly. Because you believed it and your thoughts created the reality, you know? That's such an awesome example. Like, and this is even getting into like the quantum, right? Of energy and what's all possible for us. And
Mm-hmm.
like, you know,
Observing like what you want to be and everything else collapses into a wave function and just
100%. And I mean, think about it. That's all that we are. Our brains emit wavelengths. So do our hearts. You know, they each have their own frequency and rhythm. So what you put out is has everything to do with what you get back. Just like your examples are just so incredible and will resonate with so many people. Just think about what happens when you think about what's possible for you rather than focusing on the negative, which so many people do. And there's just no need for it, because a lot of the reason we do that is for some fear, right? Like, oh, I'm so afraid because then what's everyone going to think about me? Like, who cares? The truth is, everyone's going to judge you.
here's
no
the
matter what. So you might as well, why not just go for it? So why
here's
not just go for it?
here's the real spoiler alert. There's a girl I've been friends with since middle school that said this to me a couple of years ago. I think I was thinking about a podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, "What will people think about it?" And she just said it. She wasn't trying to be mean, but it was just so perfect. She just said, "It's not that anyone's thinking good or bad of you. It's no one's thinking about you. Just like you're not thinking of me." And I was just like, "When was the last time I thought like, what people gonna
Yeah.
think? People aren't gonna think shit. They have a wife and kids and a job.
Yeah,
They,
they have their own, they're
nope,
stuck. Yeah, they're actually
they're in
stuck.
their own movie.
They're in
They don't
their own head. Exactly. They're in their own head worrying about their own shit, worrying about who's judging them. They're not worried
Yeah,
about you
if
and what you're
you're
doing.
on
Yeah.
an airplane with headphones on, you're listening
Yeah.
to like a podcast, and you're like, what do other people think about me listening? They're listening to their
They're,
own.
yeah, they
They're not
don't
even
care.
aware you exist.
Yeah.
You are in a seat that they don't even know is real. They are in their own immediate universe of seat 17B. They don't give a shit about you listening to whatever. It's so they're not even there. So then it's like, well, then
Yeah.
why do we think of failure if people aren't even judging us? There's something about it that we almost it's like a weird sort of almost submissive um you almost kind of like trying to appease the gods. You're like, I mean, I'm not good enough, so I know I'll probably fail.
Yeah.
It's like you never email someone and go, hey, I know the answer is probably no, but dude,
Yeah.
they can smell it's a fucking tiger like following a
Exactly.
wounded deer. It's like they're just waiting to
Yes.
rip your throat out. Like, no, like looking dead in the eyes and be like, when can you do it? And when they say don't email me anymore, that's when you go, okay, I understand. Legally understand. But like, it's you no, you just go into it with like this is what I'm doing. And if you fail,
Exactly.
all right, congrats.
But like what you were saying earlier, if you can let go of certainty, there's a pretty big likelihood. In fact, there's no such thing as a coincidence, right? So if that's the case and you failed, it's probably because there's something even
Mm-hmm.
better
Oh yeah,
waiting
that's
on the other
yeah,
side of that. That
yeah.
if you just can be okay with it and you can let uncertainty just, if you can just be, just, just like you were in that flow state during your test, if you can just be in a state of like, I don't care, the how's none of my business. I didn't predict or think I was going to have this failure or setback, but let's just see what happens. Like, because the truth is, everything that happens to us, whether you perceive it as positive or negative, means something, and there's something that we can learn out of from it. There's a lesson in it. So maybe something was supposed to happen, or like you've shared, maybe it's supposed to lead you to another connection that you weren't
Yeah.
expecting, and you're going to meet somebody, and all of a sudden that's going to turn into something you never expected, and that's how you take
And
the,
that's the how.
yeah, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
happening.
When the GPS says rerouting, you don't go, oh shit. You just go, oh, thank God this thing's telling
Yeah,
me
you
to
don't
like not
stop the car when the
you go,
GPS says
oh
rerouting. You don't
no.
turn off the car and get out and be like, that's it. I'm not driving. I'm
I'm
just
not
staying
going to
right
this
here. I'm
hotel
not
in New
going
York.
anywhere.
I'm not going to see my friends. Instead, it's like rerouting. You're like, oh, thank fuck. You take this
Yeah, and
exit
you're
and you
like,
get out.
okay,
You
cool.
don't
I'm just gonna
care.
go
You're
another
taking
way.
some weird
Yeah.
long interstate circle and you're like looking at street signs. No part of you's like, I wanted to take that freeway.
Yeah.
You're like, this city is so big and so scary. You're
You're
just,
like, I'm
thank
just,
God. It's like,
and
turn
what are
right.
you doing in that moment? You're actually just trusting the universe,
Yes.
even
Oh,
though
you're
it's your GPS,
100%.
because you're like, yep, this little screen's
This
just
little
gonna get me
box,
there. Like,
this little digital genie is just going, I'll tell you where to go. I'm not even real. I'm a synthetic voice.
and then
I'm
it'll
going
be
to,
like,
and
they'll
you're
be
just
like,
like,
here's another route. It will save you 5 minutes. And you're like, sure.
you're like, you
You know?
badass. Thank you so much. And you're just like, just trusting it in, just trusting it entirely.
Yeah, imagine if we would all just do that with ourselves.
Yeah. With like your own spiritual GPS, just like, and then what's the worst that can happen? Well, Tommy, that's a GPS. It's proven. Well, the worst that happens is you fail, and then you're at the place you are now already.
Exactly.
Fuck you. What? Huh? Like, I don't know.
Which
It's
isn't a bad thing.
yeah, just keep
Yeah,
going.
exactly. You don't have to make it mean something, because maybe you were supposed to end up right back there to reset, reinvent, and
The whole thing might have been that you fail, so you go, you know what? I kind of do like me. I'm sure there are plenty of people that thought about leaving med school and now they're doctors and they're like, yeah, what the fuck was I thinking? I love being a doctor. They might be looking at
yeah.
us and being like, well, you are a doctor, but they might be looking at me and be going, "No, I tried, and I realized how much I hated it and how much I loved medicine, and that's how I met my wife." Like, more power to you,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know?
Or even think about it from the perspective of like the doctor-patient relationship, right? Like we were talking about way back at the beginning, like how many, doctors aren't trained to heal, they're trained to diagnose, yet people will continue to bounce from doctor to doctor, searching for answers and kind of getting stuck in this like vicious cycle of feeling unwell. And so why do we believe that the doctor's the one that has all the answers, and we give our power to all of them and think like, okay, they're like the GPS, right? They're going to tell me what this means, they're going to tell me what pill to take, they're going to tell me this, I'm just going to have to manage it. Okay, all right, okay, okay. Okay, I only have 6 months to live, or oh, this is a lifelong thing, I'm just going to have to do this forever. And then we just decide
That it's
to believe it. When
uh,
the truth is that we don't that doesn't have to be the outcome or reality that we want. If you don't want to merely manage the place you're in, and you actually want to heal and take personal responsibility for your health and well-being, that is absolutely an option to you. You just have to decide to choose it. That's it. That's how powerful you are,
and
you know?
then someone who's listening to this, and you might have that inner cynical voice, which I had forever, probably the majority of my life, would be saying,
Yeah.
"You guys are making it sound so easy, saying it's just a choice." Well, you are now creating a reality where
Where
that is
you
all it is.
have
You're like,
you
you're right,
have this
it is,
that and that's your story. Your
and I
story, then
can't
you
do
need,
it. It's just a
yes.
it's just cho yeah, I'm sure.
And think about this. Your cells of your body, which are energy, are absorbing the frequency of you sitting there saying that are just making it sound easy. I can't really be as healthy as I want to be. I'm just going to continue to manage this shit in the place that I'm in. Your cells absorb that energy and frequency. Just like you put something out, you also are putting it in you,
Yeah,
and they respond accordingly. That's why, let's say there were two people who totally, let's say there were two twins, right? So they're exactly the same in every way, shape, and form. And let's say they both just happen to get diagnosed with cancer, the exact same type, and the doctor tells both of them, well, this is terminal. And let's just say, and one of them decides, she's like, okay, this is terminal, and that's, I'm gonna pack it all up and, you know, put my life in order and everything, and just accepts that. And then her body responds accordingly. And there have actually been studies that looked at things and outcomes like this, not just in twins, but in just people, and compared their outcomes. And studies have shown that people who decide to think positively get better prognoses, better outcomes. And let's say the other twins just like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I've got like an awesome husband and a life, and I have all these plans, and I'm not dying in six
don't go
months.
quietly into that good night. Just
Exactly. And they 100%, that first twin is going to see the end of her life in 6 months, while the other twin is going to be at her funeral, because she didn't believe that that was what was going to be the outcome for her. And so she created an entirely different reality. And that is absolutely how powerful we are, because her body, not only are our body's cells absorbing the crap that we hear and listen to from other people, whether it's positive or negative, it's absorbing the stuff we tell ourselves and what's possible for us. So it actually, if you're someone who's listening that's like, oh, that you make it sound so easy, that's not how it is. It actually, this is how it is. And it actually is that easy. But you have to believe it. And if you don't believe it,
then you're gonna get the
then you're
reality where it's not real.
exactly. And to be honest, if that's what you're doing, if you're a listener and that's what you're doing, then to be quite honest with you, I would say this to you if you were my client. If that's what you believe, then what you're doing is living from circumstance. And when you live from circumstance, you continue to repeat the same circumstances in your
Yeah.
life. So you have to look at what you're creating with your own energy. And that has to do with how you think and what you believe and the stories that you tell yourself
Yeah,
about what is and isn't possible for you. It doesn't matter if it has to do with your health or anything else in your life.
it's even if you can see no tangible reality where this could possibly be true.
Yes.
I've always, even when I was 60 pounds over, literally 60 pounds overweight, addicted to benzos and living a terrible life, I would still lie to myself and say it's gonna get better. It's actually gonna get better than I've ever experienced. And if I said it out loud, that'd probably be committed because they like he's lost touch with reality. But to me, it was I cannot voluntarily quit. Like I can be the person in last place in the marathon, like the officiators can go home and it's raining.
But
But
you're gonna cross the finish line.
as long as I tell myself I'm not done yet, like it's over, you don't even get a trophy. If in my mind I'm like, I'm still gonna finish, then I haven't quit, even if it's just in
Exactly.
thought or in vocal enunciation. So even if you're listening to us and you're like, oh, these two new age fucking hippie, even if you feel that, and you probably do, if part of you goes, yeah, but maybe, and the rest of your rational brain goes, no, not but maybe, and you go, no, I get what you're saying, but maybe. There's just the whole like, it's like the little kid being like, but where's that come from? And then what?
Yeah.
And then what? Just, but what if? But what if? And the thing is like, this isn't even some like happy go lucky talk. It's like, this is my reality of truly going to rock bottom. And now I'm doing a podcast for a living. I'm my own boss. I wake up at the crack of noon every day. Like, what the fuck? Like, I work myself to death, but I just do whatever I want whenever. And when I'm not
Yeah.
feeling it, I'll just wake up and yeah, I'm not doing this. I don't know anyone else that aside from someone that's retired that can just go, I'm not working this week.
Yeah.
But I went from the bottom to a life better than anything I could have ever imagined. So it's not
So
just
did
like
I.
a happy go lucky. This is the only reality I know. So if I don't tell you this, I'm not being sincere. I'm lying through my teeth to you. If I tell you it might not get better, if it didn't get better, I wouldn't be here telling you this. I'd be dead.
Yep.
So like if I tell you anything other than if you just lie to yourself and say it will get better, if I don't tell you that, I'm not being honest with you.
Yeah. And I think that's really important to be transparent. And I'm the same way, you know.
Yeah.
I had a near, like, I might be sitting here able to talk about health and well being, and you can heal anything, and you can, and you might be looking at me and like thinking, like, yeah, easy for you to say, but yeah, I wasn't always because I had a near death experience. And then after that, I navigated chronic physical, mental, and emotional health issues. I mean, we're talking PTSD, anxiety, depression. I was on so many meds you can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, chronic constipation, SIBO, candida, IBS. I got diagnosed with so many things you have no idea. Hormonal imbalances, acne, chronic migraines. We're talking daily. I lived my life medicated and in pain, and I was self-medicating, you know, with recreational drugs as
Sure.
well because I had felt like I had no
Got to
other choice.
escape.
I truly lived in survival mode. But I was like you, and I just knew that no matter what, this wasn't my story and it wasn't going to be how I ended up. And I was going to do it one day at a time, one moment at a time, one step at a time. And that had everything to do with what I was thinking. So even though what we're talking about today might sound new age or out there to some people, the truth is it is physics, it is science, and it's fact that this is all how you can create your reality. But, you know, as humans, we can't, it's hard to believe for some people that our thoughts and our energy could create anything we want in a physical external sense because if you can't see it, hear it, touch it, you know, smell it, taste it, if I can't, you know, pick it up like a tangible object, it's like, well, how is that true? You know, it can be hard to believe. So I get that, you know, I do.
There's
But
a there's a
we overcame.
there's a great quote. I forget who it's from. It's some guy with like a Boston accent. He kind of sounds like Bobby Kennedy, but I don't think it was him. But he was like, our deepest fear is the light, not the dark. He goes, it's
Yes, it
not that we
is.
think that we'll fail. He's like, that's commonplace. It's like your deepest fear is the belief that deep down you know you could probably do it. And that terrifies you because that
Yep.
means why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
And so when you start to think about, am I can so like Alan Watts says, when you're meditating and you wake up and you realize that you are the one and that this is all your reality, he goes, that's the dawn of responsibility. Because then you start going, well, no, I'm mean because I grew up with bad parents. Nope, it's all you. And he goes, and then you start to feel
Yes.
embarrassed. You go, it's all me. The whole universe is me. You go, oh God, World War II, that was you too. And you're like, oh shit. And then it's like, but you're also rainbows. And it's like whatever. It's like you are a beautiful night sky.
Yes.
You're also Hitler, and you're like, geez. And it's like, but hey, once you start to realize it, you go, like, imagine if like you woke up one day and someone's like, hey, by the way, like your room is your room. You can actually clean it if you want. At
Yeah.
first you'd be like, no, it's gross and there's rats and everything. And then you start putting one thing away and folding a shirt and you go, oh, it is mine. And then you clean the whole thing. You go, oh, this is fucking awesome. But at first, it's scary and it's
It's like
embarrassing because you're
and it's a
like,
lot.
you
It's
go,
a lot
oh,
of
this
work.
is that pizza box. That's yours. That dirty bong. It's yours too.
Yeah.
You're like, but if I clean it up and I open the blinds and I vacuum, that's also yours.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, okay. And then you can like live in a blissfully clean room and that's yours. It's just at first, it's a, you know, who did all these charges on my visa? Well, dude, you got blackout drunk and you demanded that you pay for all of Waffle House. Really? I have a video of it. Oh, really? Yeah, that was you. You're like, oh God. But that also means that next time you can go, maybe I won't bring my debit card. And that's you. And I used to do that. I used to leave my debit card at home and just bring $20. And I'd cut myself off before I even
Safe.
left the house.
Safe choice.
Because I'd wake up with a black eye and $200 and someone else's mailbox in my living room and be like, what in God's name happened? And like, and you stop blaming each other, or blaming others and go, oh, maybe I just can't handle like Red Bull vodka. Noted. And you move forward from, I can't do that anymore.
Dust yourself off.
Yeah, you dust yourself off. You have a fat lip. What happened? Well, a sorority girl punched you in the face, and you're like, I don't even. I'm sure I deserved
Oh,
it. You did. All right, like But then you move forward. So it's very intimidating and scary to acknowledge that.
your own power.
Yeah, but then it's pure liberation.
It totally is, and I love that. You reminds me it's one of my favorite quotes. I think it's by Marianne Williamson, and I know it is. That's our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful
Powerful
beyond
beyond our.
measure.
Yeah, that's the quote. That
And it's our light, not our darkness,
yes,
that
that is the quote.
frightens us
That's
the
the exact quote.
most.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I just heard somebody reading it with a
Yeah,
Boston accent.
and it's beautiful. And at the end, she said, at the end, the quote said, at the end, she says that, as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people the permission to do the same. And my favorite is the ending that's, and I think it's as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others, So it's just, you can set yourself free because the truth is you were meant to do it, and you're playing the world, you're playing small doesn't serve yourself and it doesn't serve the world either. But it really comes down to energy is like that we're on this, it's like I feel like we're all on this journey to just see if we can discover our own power, and I don't know, I'm determined to do it, and I feel like for me it's just a constant unfolding and discovery of like, oh my gosh, I can do this, and like, look, I can do that, and it's really amazing.
We'll wrap it up with I guess this idea, and it's I always think like so like what if I'm wrong? What if like none of this is accurate and like you don't actually create anything? Well, then one, it's a hell of a placebo effect. Gives me the balls and the backbone to
So
to
true.
to, to
I
go
love
through life
that.
like I control this bitch, and so like I'll take it. And then the second is like, what if it is all real? And what if you die and you wake up and you realize that you truly were the creator of your own like
Yeah,
you are God? How silly would you feel that you stayed in a place you hated for 80 years?
yeah,
You'd
stuck in the
feel
box.
you'd feel like a dipshit. You'd go,
Stuck in the box.
that's the same feeling of like every day I have an allergic reaction. It's like, well, you're allergic to dairy. Stop eating ice cream. Like eventually, if you eventually discovered that you were actually allergic to dairy and it wasn't just like a demon possessing you, you'd go, I can't believe I've been shitting my pants and vomiting every day for 30 years.
And I didn't
Eventually
have
you'd go,
to.
like, what if you were wrong? What if you do wake up from all this and you go, that was just a dream? And you go, oh God, I wasted it. Like I didn't know I worked at Office Depot for
Yeah,
8 decades. Like, or maybe you wake up and none of it was real, and you're like, I was so delusional that I believed I was the best. and I became the best. Like,
Yeah.
all right, it's a win-win to me.
It really is. And I love this because when we keep going in the next time we
Yeah.
connect on here, you just made me think of when you brought up placebo, a really awesome concept called the nocebo effect, which is really all about the placebo effect and a cool, like some cool studies we'll talk about.
All right.
And even, and I know we were like, we told everyone we're gonna, yes, we're totally gonna talk about Reiki, but like
Yeah.
this actually has everything to do with it because the thing is, you can't just go get Reiki healing and be somebody that's not, if you don't believe that that's going to help you, then the most powerful quote unquote Reiki healer in the world could work on you and it's not going to do a damn thing for you.
Hmm.
So it really, this is all connected to that stuff. So we'll definitely talk about it too.
Well, I'll text you after this, and
That sounds
we'll get
great.
the next one scheduled.
I can't wait.
Dr. Rodgers, I love you. Thank you
I
so much
love
for
you
coming on
too.
here. I love talking with you. You are my spirit. You are my spirit mate, and we can just scream delusional things at one another. And I don't care. I don't
I
care if
love
it's
it
real or
so
not because
much.
it's real to me. So I
I
don't
love
care.
it so
I don't
much.
care. Tell a 4-year-old Santa's not real. He doesn't give a shit. He's like, all right. He's like, all right, moron.
Yeah, I
We'll
know.
see who's getting cold tonight. Who's having a better Christmas? Cynical old you or that kid going,
That
I'm going to tell
kid.
Santa what
I
you said.
know.
That kid. So fuck all of you. I'll believe in Santa. Who's having a better Christmas? I am.
Definitely us.
Dr. Rogers, I love you. I'll send this to you later. I'll text
Okay, I
you.
love you
We'll schedule another
too.
one. Thank you so much, everybody out there.